When a man, who has cared for sick little lynx cubs, notices something unusual about their behavior, he can't help but feel curious. It's as if they have a message just for him. Intrigued, he decides to follow them to uncover what might be wrong, and what unfolds next is truly remarkable. As the sun began to set, Liam was busy packing his fishing gear after a successful day on the river. Content with his catch, he savored the sounds of nature, the birds chirping and the gentle clink of his equipment as it went into his bag. Suddenly, a rustling noise from the bushes caught his attention, and he paused to take a look around, yet nothing appeared to be there. Out of nowhere, a group of sick little lynx cubs emerged beside him, their small silhouettes framed by the fading light. They approached cautiously, their little noses twitching as they picked up his scent. Then, in an unexpected move, they started to circle around him. Liam's heart raced not from fear, but from the uniqueness of their approach. While most people might have reacted with surprise, he felt a calmness wash over him. The lynx cubs settled on the ground, gazing up at Liam. This wasn't their first encounter. Over the years spent in the wild, his favorite place, he had become attuned to nature's subtle signs. He recognized the calls of birds, the tracks left by deer, and the habits of fish that swam in the nearby river. One day during a fishing trip, he noticed signs of a lynx family deeper in the forest. Although he was wise enough to move away, he hesitated when he heard a faint whimpering. Curiosity drove him closer to the den, and he approached carefully, not wanting to scare off anything inside. What he found took his breath away. There, huddled together for warmth, were 6 tiny lynx cubs, their eyes barely open and looking weak and hungry. Liam glanced around, but there was no sign of their mother. Aware of the potential danger, he knew lynx are fiercely protective of their young, and if the mother returned, she might not take kindly to his presence. Yet, despite the risks, he couldn't bring himself to leave them alone. Something deep within him urged him to stay and discover their fate, sensing that these cubs were in need and had likely been there for quite some time. Liam spent an hour by the entrance of the den, hoping to see the mother lynx return. He stayed hidden, unsure if she could detect his presence, especially with his fishing gear nearby and the catch of the day. However, as the evening sun set and still no sign of her appeared, he felt a pang of sympathy for the little cubs left behind. He decided to head home, promising himself that he would come back the next day. The cubs were too young for his fish, so instead, he lit a small fire nearby to keep them warm, feeling an unexpected sense of responsibility for them. Over the next few days, Liam made it a point to return to the den. He brought milk and water in feeding bottles for the cubs. While he knew the milk wasn't the best choice for them, it at least kept them fed. The thought of why the mother lynx was missing troubled him, but he felt powerless to change the situation. One morning, while taking a different route to the den, Liam stumbled upon a lynx's corpse. As he examined it, the painful realization hit him. It could be the mother lynx. The thought of her searching for food to nourish herself, and in turn, her cubs, only to meet a tragic fate, brought tears to his eyes. Nature can indeed be cruel at times. For the little cubs, this meant they were now alone, without their mother. He knew nature wouldn't show them any mercy, but Liam also couldn't bear the thought of just standing by as they faced this hardship. This moment inspired a sense of purpose in him. He committed to helping the cubs, visiting them daily. While he kept a respectful distance to avoid interfering too much, the cubs soon grew familiar with him. As they became stronger, they started to venture out of the den. Their playful antics brought a rare smile to Liam's face. During these visits, a bond formed between Liam and the cubs. He named them Willow, Ash, Fern, Maple, Birch, and Sage, after the trees and plants he admired. Willow and Ash, with their sleek light gray fur, were always curious. Fern and Maple, slightly darker in color, displayed a mischievous side. Birch was more timid, while Sage, the smallest, observed quietly from a distance, learning from the others. As the weeks passed, their connection deepened, and the cubs often followed Liam as he visited, turning his afternoons into something truly special. During their fishing trips, the playful calls of the lynx cubs echoed through the forest. However, their companionship wasn't always easy. Sometimes, the wild instincts of the cubs clashed with Liam's human nature. Willow, in particular, frequently tested Liam's patience with her curiosity. She delighted in pouncing on his fishing gear or hiding his supplies. Meanwhile, Maple and Ash often found themselves in predicaments, climbing trees they couldn't descend or chasing each other into the river. Despite these little troubles, Liam loved them deeply. One winter, a harsh blizzard caught Liam off guard while he was out fishing. The biting cold and swirling snow disoriented him, and soon he realized he had lost his way as night began to set in. With no shelter and his energy fading, he felt a wave of concern. Just when he was about to lose hope, he heard a familiar sound, the cries of the lynx cubs calling out for him. Responding, Liam called back, and somehow the cubs found him amidst the storm and guided him back to the safety of his cabin. In a different scenario, it was Liam who came to the cubs' rescue. When a group of hunters threatened their lives in the forest, he knew they were too young to fend for themselves. Liam devised a risky plan to divert the hunters, leading them on a wild chase through the woods away from the cubs' den. Though the plan was dangerous, his efforts ensured the cubs remained safe. Now, as the cubs surrounded him in the forest, Liam sensed something was amiss. Their bond had grown strong over time, allowing him to understand their worries and expressions. He had become like a father to them, capable of grasping the unspoken feelings that lay behind their eyes. The urgency sparkling in their eyes was new to him. Willow stepped closer, gently brushing her nose against Liam's hand, as if trying to convey something critical. Ash and Fern mirrored her intensity, and Liam knelt down, his heart racing. What could be wrong? He had learned to interpret their body language, yet this moment felt different. The usually playful cubs were now serious. As he peered into their eyes, he realized that one lynx was missing. Scanning the area, he quickly identified that Maple was nowhere to be found. Ash let out a soft whine and darted towards the trees, glancing back at Liam, urging him to follow. Without hesitation, the other cubs joined in, and Liam stood up, ready to follow them into the woods. As they walked into the forest, the sounds of night surrounded them. Crickets chirped, leaves rustled, and the distant call of an owl echoed through the trees. Underneath it all, Liam noticed something else, a low, steady rumble that seemed to grow louder. He picked up his pace, following the cubs until they arrived at a small clearing. In the center, bathed in moonlight, stood a massive, uprooted tree. Its roots stretched out like the arms of a giant. The trunk had fallen into a ditch, creating a temporary bridge. Liam's heart raced as he leaned in to look into the darkness below. There, tangled in the roots and branches, was Maple. She looked weak and frightened, her cries punctuated by the roar of the river below. It seemed she had attempted to cross the tree bridge and had become ensnared. The cubs made comforting sounds, but Maple was in a precarious situation, and Liam knew he had to act quickly. He carefully made his way across the tree trunk, which creaked under his weight. The cubs watched with hope as he stretched out his hand. When his fingers brushed against Maple's fur, she whimpered, but Liam leaned in further, grasped her scruff, and gently pulled her free. The tree groaned, but with one last tug, Maple was safe. He cradled her against his chest and cautiously made his way back. Once at the edge, he handed her over to her siblings, who nuzzled and licked her, their relief clear to see. Catching his breath, Liam couldn't help but smile. The cubs huddled together, their bond feeling stronger than ever. As the moon rose higher, casting a silvery glow, the cubs began to howl softly. It was their first howl, and it sent shivers down Liam's spine. Though young and untrained, their voices harmonized and filled the night air with a sound that was raw, full of emotion, and undeniably wild. This was more than just a howl. It was a song of gratitude and joy. Liam had heard their cries before, but this felt different. It seemed as though they were singing just for him, acknowledging their shared bond and honoring the life they had fought to protect together. Watching the cubs express themselves, Liam realized they were no longer just wild animals he had stumbled upon. They had become a family, an unconventional one, but a family nonetheless. Tears welled in his eyes, not only from the emotional moment, but from the relief of knowing Maple was safe. His heart swelled with a sense of pride and purpose, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. As Liam moved forward, one of the little lynx cubs pressed its tiny head into his hand, its purr resonating gently against his skin. Another cub, Ashen Fern, playfully nipped at his boots, while Birch and Sage gracefully circled around him, their eyes shimmering with affection. Maple, though still a bit shaken, managed to offer him a small, grateful nuzzle. For a long moment they stood together beneath the expansive night sky, bathed in soft moonlight. In that instant, Liam felt the burdens he had carried begin to lift. What was once a lonely forest for him had transformed into a home brimming with love and purpose, all thanks to these remarkable creatures. Eventually, Liam rose to his feet, and the cubs eagerly followed as he headed back to his cabin. The walk was peaceful, with the forest alive around them. The leaves rustled softly and an owl hooted in the distance. The cubs trotted beside him, playful and content, sharing in the happiness of their reunion. They understood, just as he did, that they had found a protector in him, while he had discovered something invaluable in them, a sense of belonging. As they approached the cabin, the moon hung high, casting a silvery glow across the clearing. Liam glanced down at the cubs, who had settled near his porch, already getting ready to curl up for the night. He chuckled softly, shaking his head at the wonderful sight before him. They had a special way of filling his heart with warmth. With one last look at the starry sky, he whispered a quiet thank you for the extraordinary bond they shared. He recognized that life in the wild would bring its own challenges, but he felt prepared to face them, knowing he and the cubs were now forever intertwined in each other's lives.